And we could have those folks join us up here at the table, please. And then we'll get started into crowning the new champion in the iRacing.com Series World Championship. Okay, as I mentioned, we've got a special recognition of this year's champion of the 2011 NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Championship. Let's look at a video real quick before we roll into this. Congratulations go out to Ray Alfalla of Cape Coral, Florida, who is our 2011 NASCAR iRacing.com Series World Champion. Congratulations, Ray. Great stats. You posted it up there. He's joined on stage, of course, by Dale Earnhardt Jr., Blake Davidson, who is Vice President of Licensed Products with NASCAR, and Steve Myers, who is the iRacing.com Executive Vice President. Ray, you've been racing online for some time, I'm told. You've captured this championship. This is the second year we've had this competition. You got 3 wins, 8 top 5 finishes, and 18 races. I believe you'd have been a contender in the chase. Tell us what your reaction is to winning the title and what it means to all online racers worldwide to have this World Championship.
Oh, well, thank you, first of all. And I mean, it means a lot, just being able to compete at the top level of sim racing and being able to put together all 18 races and with consistent finishes and also get a few wins in there. So it means a lot. And also just the sim racers all over the world, to be able to compete in a series that's highlighted by NASCAR, it just legitimizes sim racing as a viable alternative to real world racing if you can't for whatever reason get into it. So just really happy overall with how this year went.
Well, congratulations. And Blake, you've been involved from the beginning on this great initiative, and tell us a little bit about how NASCAR approaches this series and what it means to the fans of our series.
Yeah, I think for us, we really see it as a way to connect with an entirely new audience, and I think to develop new drivers. Ray and I had dinner the other night, and we were talking about kind of what he wants to do and what his aspirations are. Ray came over from Cuba when he was 6 years old. I'm sure his parents never thought he'd be in this position, NASCAR champion. And our last champion came from England, so we really expanded the boundaries, growing the sport, reaching out to new audiences. I was at an event earlier, Kerry, with Ryan Blaney, who recently won the K&N Series in Phoenix, and he's using iRacing to help hone his skills, and he's one of our probably a future star for NASCAR. So I think we're going to find drivers from different places with the NASCAR iRacing.com series, and I think it's really just in its infancy still. We've got 30,000 plus members now that are racing the top 50 in the world. Raced in this series with Ray and won. So I think as we continue to grow the series, we're going to find new drivers. Ray said he'd like to get into a real car at some point, so I think we're going to find some drivers down the line that come from the NASCAR iRacing.com series and will be out here one day.
And Steve, representing iRacing.com, you've worked on virtual online games for over a decade, and you were part of that initial group that brought this great game to NASCAR. And talk about maybe how this, since you all got involved with NASCAR, maybe how this has changed online racing.
Well, as Ray alluded to, it's legitimized it. I mean, we have a premier racing series that is sanctioning a professional sim racing, and Ray's got a paying sponsor. Most of the drivers in our series have paying sponsors. These aren't, they're not doing it for free anymore. Dale's got a roster of drivers for Junior Motorsports that he calls out on his website, and it's growing every week. Even in our everyday drivers, it's so authentic that Travis Pastrana, we brought a pod down to him. He's joining the sport next year. He's using it to train this year to come into the sport. It's simple things like communicating with his crew chief. Our garage is so authentic that he can sit down and learn how to communicate with him on how to make the car better during a practice so that they're more efficient with their practice time. So, I think Dale can vouch for the level that we're able to go to make this as real as possible.
Thank you, Steve. And Dale, I know you're a big fan of iRacing. You participate in it a lot, and like Steve alluded to, you have a roster of drivers. What's it like for you to be able to do iRacing competitively and race against drivers like Ray?
Well, it makes me feel good that I can do it somewhat competitively, because these Ray and the guys that he races against are very, very good at it, and it's a real challenge to be able to run at speed with them. I want to congratulate Ray on his championship. I've known him for a long time, and I watched the series closely. I know what the kind of commitment that it takes, the hours of practice and study and working with the setups that it takes that you have to put in to be competitive. And Ray, I watched Ray every race, and he ran a smart season and stayed out of trouble and capitalized on his opportunities. And like these guys said, it's another year, another champion, another great season, another step toward legitimizing the series as well as the software. And it's becoming more and more popular every week. We have more and more real-world drivers speaking highly about iRacing as a tool, as a viable tool to help them accelerate their learning curve on new racetracks or new vehicles. And it's been fun to be a part of it, and that's why I'm here today.
Okay, let's take questions now. We'll take a few questions. Who has questions for anybody here up front? Let us know. Anybody? Question? Go ahead, Jeff.
Ray, what's up? My name's Jeff Gluck from SBNation.com. I hear about you that you want to get in real cars at some point. I assume you go to like a kart track. How much do your skills do you find translate just into those type of, like a high-speed kart? I mean, does anything translate? Do you feel like, your hand-eye coordination and stuff, you see it the same way?
Yeah, karting is pretty much as far as I've done as far as any real-world racing. And I think the coordination definitely transfers as far as knowing how to go into a turn and hitting an apex and that kind of stuff. The only difference would be just the physical side of it. Like, when I've been karting, it's been obviously very physical, and karts are, worse than anything else out there. So in sim racing, you don't get the physical aspect of it, but I think all the visuals there, your brain is telling you that you're going down a track at 200 miles an hour, and your body doesn't feel it, but your eyes are telling you that, that corner's coming up, and you have to figure out how to get through that, how to get there faster than anybody else.
Back in the back, all the way in the back. Go ahead, sir.
This is for Dale Jr. and Ray. Joe Costello, WFO Radio. Dale, you've done the sim racing, and I think there's people all over the country that see a guy like Ray and think, wow, this is the opportunity. But you mentioned the time invested. I guess, Ray, how much time do you put into this? And Dale, as a driver, what will be the most difficult part of the transition from sim racing to getting out there, those G-forces affecting his decision-making, those kind of things? Thank you.
Well, as far as time into it, the series I mostly run is the championship series, so it's 18 races every couple weeks. Every other week is the races. So, the testing over 14 days, you can put in like half an hour or an hour a day. So, it can add up to even like 10 hours, which sounds like a lot. But when you only put into it maybe like an hour a day, maybe like a tire run a day or something, and adjust your setup over time, it just make sure, you don't get burned out or something like that. But it can be a few hours and just making sure your car is working fine and that you're prepared for the race.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too, when you're starting out at entry level in iRacing, there are levels and series to get involved in that require little or no time working with the setup. There's some fixed setup series, and you can jump right in, just plug in and race immediately. But as you get up, this being the top tier series, is quite a lot more to juggle, and there's a lot more realism when it comes just to in the garage itself and the variables on the car. But when somebody goes from sim racing to driving a real world race car, I think that the transition on the road course side will be a lot smaller because I'm not a road course specialist, but the techniques and the apexes and lining up several corners in a row all sort of work themselves out on iRacing just the way they do in the real world. And I think that what you learn and how you become really good at driving on a road course, all that could be learned directly through iRacing. On the oval side, and you can ask road course drivers that are actually real world road course drivers that go drive ovals, it's a little more difficult. It's a little odder of a deal. You're going around a different style of corner, and there's a little bit more to. There's an entrance, a middle, and an exit, and the car's doing different things. But you can really learn the basics and the common knowledge of how a car handles, how to adjust your line to change how the car handles, and obviously correct apexes, incorrect apexes, and trying to make yourself drive corners a little more properly. But I think, like Ray said, the one thing that's missing is the physical part, and that's the only thing you'd have to overcome as a driver once you got into the real thing. It's just the noise and the heat and the vibration of the car, but everything else is right there. I mean, it's like deja vu every time you go out on the racetrack. When I before I come to Homestead this weekend, you get on the racetrack in the sim, and it's like the real thing. So when you get out to practice, you're ready to go. You're mentally up to speed on what's going to happen to you.
Anybody else have a question or two? Reed?
Reed Spencer, Sporting News for Dale. Following up on the setup aspect, assuming that you've got the same variables in iRacing, the track bar wedge, tire pressure, that sort of thing, have you ever run across anything in an iRacing simulation that you've maybe taken back to the shop and said, hey, maybe this is something we should try?
Not necessarily, but I've learned a lot through the iRacing software about front sway bar asymmetry and things like that. A lot of things that I'd never had taken the time to study and truly understand. I have done that through sim racing, and so that's been a plus. Doing a lot of adjustments in the garage and sort of backing them up to what I've experienced in my real world racing has been a lot of fun, and sort of having having a little more knowledge than most of the guys has been cool as well. But because it's just been once these guys start figuring out what they're doing, they do a lot of things that they don't know why they're doing them, because it makes the car fast. But then I can go to them and explain to them, hey man, this is why that helped and why that should do what it did. So that's kind of where a lot of our conversations go when it comes to guys like me and Ray. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot through the sim. Not just I've learned a lot driving the sim, especially at road courses. But in the garage area, I mean, if you've never set up an Indy car, you're going to learn a lot looking at that garage area in iRacing. So, and that's just one example.
Let's go back here in the back. We'll take maybe two more. Go ahead.
Brian Nelson, Motor Racing Network for Steve or Blake. You've got engineers in the real Sprint Cup Series garage and crew chiefs who are studying and always learning as the sport evolves technically. I've got to believe that there's still some lag between the real world and the simulated world. How do you keep up with these advances and the things that they're constantly learning, and how long does it take to implement that to your game?
One thing that's nice about what we're doing is that we have a product that we're not kept to we have to have a product out before Daytona, like traditional brick and mortar products. So our software is always under development. So when we, for instance, over this last month, we released a new update with a better physics model on our tires, which Dale could probably speak to more better than I can. But we're always trying to collect more data from the real world. Dale, his team, Junior Motorsports, has been really instrumental in helping us understand how the cars work when a new change comes through. NASCAR will give us the CAD data and whatever new rules that come through, and we're trying to always continuously move the software forward because we want to make it as authentic as possible so guys like Dale that can drive in it and actually become something useful to them. And even touching on transitioning from the virtual world to the real world, actually Dale's even done this himself. I mean, we've put people that are truly novice drivers into race cars, and because we are always advancing the software and making it more authentic, they transition very well. Josh Berry, Jim Cottle Jr., Dale's had a lot of success with putting guys from the virtual world into his cars, and we've done it on the road racing side of things as well. So we're always trying to push the envelope and making sure that things are as authentic as possible.
I'll tell you what, we'll take two more. We'll go Dwight and then Wynn with Marty.
Dwight Drumm, racestake.com. Dale, as far as say we take a 3 or 4 year old kid and start him out early, do you think that and find someone who actually does pretty well with it? Can you imagine taking a 3 or 4 year old kid and turning that kid into a champion? Is that possible? If they start early enough
Through the software? Absolutely. Whoever's smart enough to do that, that's what they need to do. I've been asked for years and years and years and years and years how to get started in racing, and it's like, well, if you don't have, $5,000-$10,000, it's kind of difficult, and there's no college level, there's no high school level, for kids to get noticed, and you can go to the local short track and race, but there's no real you're not very visual. It's hard to be relevant in such a small pond, and it's very rare that the guys get sort of sought out in those areas. So with this software, this definitely gives people an opportunity, especially at a young age, to sort of get an early start. They not only understand, because I have no doubt in my mind that at least 45-50% of the guys in the World Drivers' Championship have the wherewithal to get a car around a racetrack at a relatively good speed. I think I could take just about any of those guys and put them in late models, and within 4 months they would be up to speed with the best at that track. That's what iRacing does. It teaches you the mechanics of driving a car, the technical, visual side of driving a car, and if a kid can learn that at 4, 5, 6 years old, and especially be able to understand the garage and what the car, what pieces and things are doing to the car and what changes are doing to the car, and that would be you couldn't measure the value. That would put them so far ahead of other people in their age group trying to do the same thing, trying to accomplish the same goal. It'd be ridiculous.
Finish up here. Last one, Marty, over to the right.
Marty Smith, ESPN. I imagine that this is for all of you, but especially Ray, I guess, since you won. I imagine you have to commit a ton of time to this. So what's the gain? What's the motive? Is there a financial benefit to winning a national championship? Is there? I mean, you get a pat on the butt, an opportunity to sit beside Junior, like champagne and chicks. What's the deal? I don't. It seems like it would be a lot of time.
Well, I mean, it's.
Do you want any money?
Yeah, there's 10 grand on the line.
Okay, well there you go.
So-
I'll give you that then. That's
Yeah,
worth
I
the
mean-
money. That's worth the time.
But even if there wasn't money, I think we all love to sim race, and we're all racing fans in the first place. So even if you have to put a few hours of time in a race just to prepare for a race, I think you'd still do it. I mean, iRacing and NASCAR have organized this series to basically, you start out from iRacing and then you progress through the ranks. Basically, the top 50 are fighting for 43 spots every couple weeks because nobody's locked in, so you have to qualify in on time. And the actual races, there's a lot of drama. There's just everything you find in the real world. There's people screaming at each other after every race, and it gets pretty hairy at times. But everybody's just a big racing fan, and I think the money is nice, obviously, but we'd do it even if it was just for a pat on the back. Yeah, definitely. Crashing people intentionally, pulling a Kyle Busch, stuff like that.
Ray, you got a future in here, man.
Well, listen, congratulations.
Kyle's his favorite driver, though.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
He's just being honest.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ray, on the iRacing.com Series Championship. Dale, thanks for coming in and spending some time with us. Blake Davidson, continued good work on behalf of NASCAR. Steve Myers, thanks for the participation with iRacingSeries.com. Thank you all.